Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Education Showroom's weekly podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Ed today, and Ed is going to tell you all about him, his products, his services, but we're actually going to start with talking about the real problem that is the falling pupil numbers in schools and multi-academy trusts across the country and the real impact that is having, which is huge. So thank you for dialing in. Thank you for listening, whether you're on Spotify or YouTube. And today's title is exactly that, is challenging environments for schools and maths because of the decreasing pupil numbers. Ed, good afternoon. How's things your end?
Yeah, they're a bit soggy, but apart from that, we're all very well. Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. It's great to have you as my special guest today. And just for setting the scene a little bit, we'd love to hear a little bit about yourself, your background, your experiences, and so on. Just a bit of a scene setter for the listeners today, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run a video production company called Ed Media, Ed in this case being for education. We make films for the education sector, specifically schools currently, promotional films that help schools with their narrative, telling people who they are and what they're about, and doing it in a way that makes them look good. So I come from a professional filming background, both television and corporate film, making films for businesses, organizations, big brands, ad agencies. And I started in TV and ads, and then came into the corporate space and then came into schools in the classic way that a lot of people did during COVID. Suddenly schools had a requirement to show who they were and what the inside of their school looked like because they couldn't get parents into their schools. And I just got a bug for it, for making films with schools, being in that environment and showing off everything that is fantastic within the gates of a school that so many people don't get to see. To me, that seemed like such a missed opportunity because I came from a place where businesses, organizations couldn't stop talking about themselves. Suddenly I was within a school and I was like, why aren't you telling people about this? This stuff is fantastic. I'm also from a family of teachers. So having steered clear of it for so long, it was funny how I suddenly came full circle and realized what the attraction was of how exciting being in a school is. And I really wanted to tell those stories. So that's how Ed Media came about.
And that's a lovely story itself. Thank you very much for setting the scene. And I think we'll dive straight into the first of kind of the scenarios and the questions today, Ed, which is, again, declining pupil numbers is a massive issue. That's the focus of this podcast for you and I today. So the challenges that schools and maths face, Ed, because of these declining numbers, the challenges that they face, what are they looking like? What kind of things do you hear? What kind of things do you see? What are the challenges that schools and maths have and that are facing in the next 1, 3, 5, 7, 10 years ahead?
Yeah, well, it's obviously funding and enrollment. They're the big ones, and they go hand in hand. And then off the back of that, you've kind of got morale, I would imagine, and then a kind of long-term sustainability as well. And these things are obviously huge, and the pressures therefore are, bigger than they've ever been. But then along with that comes the importance of what you can do about it, I suppose. And yeah, if you're struggling with enrollment in particular, I think it's all about telling people who you are, honestly, what you stand for, and what is going on inside that school with a smile.
Yeah.
I think that's all you can do, and you just have to keep hitting that point, because if people know who you are and what you stand for, and you can control the narrative, then you will attract the right people. Not every school is right for every student, and you have the opportunity to say, this is us, this is what we're about. Look at all the great things that go on within these walls. And that's your best way of kind of combating that problem.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I live in rural Norfolk and the pupil numbers have fallen and continue to fall so steeply and significantly here that I read in the local newspapers and I see things on social media, Facebook, etc., about this talk and chatter about certain schools potentially closing in the next 12, 18 months, and another school doing the same, and another school, and looking at what schools would kind of potentially take the students that are remaining and the logistics of that. And as you said right at the beginning, incredibly hard for funding. If there's falling pupil numbers, that means falling income, and falling income means, is a school viably commercially affordable? Is it an option? It's incredibly challenging. Yeah, it's a important topic, but it's very difficult to talk about as well. It's very difficult. It's very sensitive, of course.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm based in North London, and you can't stop hearing about schools literally closing.
Yeah,
because there just aren't the students now. You know, there's less, potentially there's less kids, and they're moving out of London, so schools are closing all over the place. It's quite an epidemic.
Yeah, the challenge is clearly big. It's clear, and I would say it's across vast parts of the UK. So it really is a big issue, as we've discussed and established. What can schools and Maths Ed do for themselves, by themselves? So let's say, what would your sharings be? Hints and tips. What would you say that other schools have considered or are doing that you're aware of? What can they do themselves to try and attract new pupils, and therefore attract their parents and guardians and carers to consider being a part of that school, consider joining that school? What can they do themselves, Ed?
Well, I think the first thing is to be clear on who you are and what you stand for, and what the education is that the students inside your walls are getting. Because once you're clear on that, then you can tell people about it and be consistent in telling people about it. That's the key thing. So as long as you are clear on, these are the things we stand for, and we are proud of who we are and what we're doing, and then you're consistent with that messaging, that's the most powerful thing you can do. So that kind of wording that you want to be using throughout all of your newsletters and all of your outgoing messages, however you do that, social media, whatever it is, be consistent and be consistent and be consistent and be consistent. And once you've got that, on top of that, it's sharing positive stories, and with an honest tone. So, you know, look at all the fantastic stuff's going on here. Look at the fantastic stuff that's going on here, and keep doing that and keep doing that. And then do that with, as I said, the wording, the messaging that you've decided upon beforehand. And when I say decided upon, a lot of it's already there. When it comes to who you are, when it comes to your culture, it's sort of already within your school. You just have to sometimes get a pad and a piece of, and a pen, and get it down on paper to make it clear in your head.
Yeah.
And once you got that, then you're kind of off and away. You're off to the races. You can just start being like, yeah, well, we'll put that into this, and we'll put that into this, and remember to do it, and remember to do it. And once that becomes the norm, I think that's the strongest thing that a school can do.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that leapt out to me right at the beginning, actually, of this podcast, which I think you absolutely spot on, is when you introduced yourself and mentioned about, let's call it industry, that you've come from certain industries, and that industries, businesses market themselves, in some cases, very, very often, frequent, some would say aggressively. And I think there is a lot that schools and Maths can look at in businesses and industries and go, how are they doing it? How are they doing it successfully? What does that look like? What can we learn from? What could we adopt? What could we do differently? What could we do better? I really do think there's a space for schools and Maths to look at certain organizations and businesses and go, God, their marketing's good. The way that, like you said, their storytelling, their success storytelling, their consistent message across their brand. There's so much that schools and Maths could potentially look at businesses and go, you know what? If we could do something as good as that, or half as good as that, there'd be some improvement.
But Yeah, simultaneously though, I think that can also be somewhat overwhelming, right? You know what I mean? Because we obviously see the biggest and most successful of those businesses and organizations. So to feel like I kind of want to copy them is like, you kidding me? What hours of the day exactly
Yeah,
would I do that in? So to your point, what you should take from that isn't let's so much, don't be concerned that you need to be as they are. More know who you are and just keep saying it. That's the key. And that shouldn't therefore be worrying for any teacher, head teacher within the school about adding more work to your plate. As soon as you know who you are and what you stand for, we just keep repeating it.
yeah,
And you'll find naturally you'll different ways of repeating it, but we are coming back to the same messaging. And that's the key. And that isn't actually additional work. It's just a way in which you do the stuff you're already doing.
yeah. Thanks, Ed. And again, I think being visible.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm going to give my age away now, 40 plus years ago at school, let's say, I'm being kind to myself. 40 plus years ago, schools didn't need to market. Schools didn't need to do what they have to do now. The landscape was completely changed. And I think, therefore, being visible in a
Mm.
way that is, as you said, consistent, in a way that grabs people's attention. And by people, I mean parents, the parents of children who you want and need to enroll at your school. Being consistent, being able to use the right vehicles, the right channels rather, to find where parents are looking or where they can be influenced, and where your storytelling, your recommendation of consistent storytelling is seen, is visible, so it has the impact that it deserves and needs. Moving, Ed, to how I know you've had a fantastic business and your rep is second to none, which is great. How can you and how are you helping schools and MATs to navigate this challenge? Because it's a big one. So how can you do it? What does your company do to help the school and MAT leaders listening to this podcast today, Ed?
Yeah, so we make films for schools and educational organizations and primarily promotional films. So a film you would go to a school website and the first thing you would see is a video, press play, where you are going to hear from the staff and the pupils talking all about everything that's fantastic about their school. Now, that film should encapsulate everything that a potential parent wants to hear. That you want to answer all of their questions straight away in a well-made, professional, upbeat film that shows every corner of the school, every little bit. I want to come away from having watched that film understanding what the school looks like and feels like, what the leadership is, what sort of a school the leadership is trying to produce, what sort of an education the students are getting, and then I want to feel emotionally connected to it. That's the big thing about video. What video does that text and still images don't do is have an emotional connection and a powerful emotional connection. And that, I think, is what makes it such a strong tool for a school to connect with potential students and their parents and the community, as well as current parents and students. A well-made film should be something that a school is proud of, and they should show it to everyone. And it should make concrete, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is what this fantastic place is all about. Come and be a part of it if you feel, engaged, connected, feel like it's a place for you and your child.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone will agree the power of video in the modern day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
As you said,
absolutely.
before video, it used to be image. The
Yeah,
old saying, a picture is 1,000 words, but a video is 10 times more impactful than a still image.
yeah,
So
yeah,
times move on, but a modern day parent, but the video access, social
yeah.
media, every second, third post is on social media is a video. The
Yeah.
same on LinkedIn for school and MAT leaders. I'm sure when you're listening to this, you're thinking, absolutely, how many videos do you see on Facebook? How many do you see on LinkedIn? The power and the word emotion, Ed, that you've used, key words, connection, emotion, and I think visibility, being able to place that video in the correct places that matter, that has that influence, that is like that magnet to parents that you're wanting to connect with and influence that your school is the right school for them to consider. And for school and mat leaders out there going, well, this sounds great, but what does designing a video look and feel like? We don't know where to start. We'd love a video, but we won't know where to start. So you sit down with a school leadership or a head or a mat leader, and you've got a blank canvas in front of you or a whiteboard, whatever that looks like. What does the process look like of designing the perfect school or mat video?
It starts by it's a conversation where I'm going to pose questions and I want to hear everything about your school. I want to hear about what makes it special. I want to hear about what it feels like to be in your school. I want to hear about any special projects that you have inside your school. I want to hear about firsthand from the leadership team, what sort of a school are you and why is that a great education for these young people? Because once I understand that, there's a point at which it clicks. And I would hope that would be the same for a parent watching the film that we would go on to make. There's a point at which I'm like, oh, I get it. You're that. Brilliant. And I write down a million notes and I'm writing down words. You find consistent words being thrown out, with this, with that. And I get all of that down and I get the full picture. And once I've got the full picture, we have a process on our end that you can funnel all of that information into. And we then know that when we go into the schools, I know what it is I'm getting. I know what it is that I need to get on film to put the film together that is going to showcase your school in the way that you want it to be seen. So it's a conversation, really, because once I have that information both in my head and down on paper, the process that we have has consistent results. So we know that we're going to be able to make the film that you want, that not only that you want made, but is going to work for you in the best possible way, because your school is like no other. Every school is individual. That is one thing. As similar as all schools can be to some extent, they are also individual to a huge extent as well. And you want to cover all the bases. We want people to know that, yes, your child comes here, they're going to have a caring education. They're going to have, solid basics in this, that, and the other. And then these are the things that make us special. Right, we go above and beyond here. We have special programs here. We have additional support here, and all of that comes together with within your culture, and that's what we're putting into film. And then we do that with a professionally made, glossy, upbeat video.
And I think the school and mat leaders listening to this were probably thinking, "Oh, that sounds really good. I'm sure I'd love to have a conversation with Ed and see what this kind of exploratory design would look like." So what's your website? What's your contact details? So for any listener today and they're thinking, I'll just have a little think about that. I'd love to have a quick chat. I'd love to see what it entails. What's your website and contact details, Ed, please?
Yeah, so it's edmedia.uk is the website. And I do suggest people go on and check out the types of films that we make, because I've worked very hard at making a film that I think best represents schools. The style of film that we make, I think, is the best you can get for representing your school in the best possible light and showing everything you want to show about your school. So do go to the website, edmedia.uk, and then email is ed@edmedia.uk, and it'd be fantastic to hear from anyone who wants to just discuss the ideas and the process and what they might do, and any way in which I might help.
Thank you very much, Ed. Listeners, thank you very much indeed. If you would like to discuss more with Ed, have a look at some example videos and other schools, multi-academy trusts, to learn the impact that these videos have had and the very affordability of the videos. Ed would be delighted to have a chat with you. So I'll end as I started. If you're a school or mat leader that is really concerned about falling pupil numbers, reducing pupil numbers in your school and or across your multi-academy trust. Hopefully today's content has helped. It could be about marketing via video, the power of video, the emotional connection of video, and we hope you found this content really useful. And Ed and myself would love to take any questions that you have. Listeners, I'd like to thank you for continuing to listen and to support the Education Showroom. And Ed, thank you for being this week's special podcast guest.
Thank you.